Hello there. I'm Dr. Trent Corey of Xtra Mile Physical Therapy in Vancouver, Washington, and I'm just really excited to have a chance to speak with one of my mentors today, Thomas Dalonzo-Baker of Total Motion Release. And boy, I think I learned this back in like 2009, I think.
I was just going to think about 2008 to 2009.
Crazy. Oh yeah, I'm gonna show you this. I didn't see this old sheet, if you remember
Yeah,
this.
wow, that is
It's an old time, but it's so cool.
one of my favorites though. That's a
Oh,
good one.
absolutely. So, yeah, I got introduced by this, really interesting, weird. I mean, it's kind of like funny, weird, opposite side motion. I was like, this sounds like, what are you talking about, man? Like, you know, but I'm always a, natural curious person. I'm not. I just take everything open-mindedly. I'm not just skeptic and cut the door. I mean, I can still come in skeptical, but I basically said, you know what? I'm just gonna go and learn this thing and lo and behold, here I am, 16 years later,
Yeah.
doing yummy twists and all these good things. It's been really a fascinating journey just learning how the whole body's connected. And as you pointed out, I have some of the Thomas Myers in the background and how that interconnectivity is. So anyway, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Tom, and have you introduce yourself maybe a little bit, but I'm really happy that we get to share a little time together. So.
Nice, nice. Well, hey, thanks for having me, Trent. So again, it's Tom Dalonzo-Baker. I'm the founder of Total Motion Release. I had the aha moment in 2001. Obviously, I'm much more clear these, 20 years later, 24 years later, um, being able to explain it. So I'll let you kind of take where you want to go with it because I've got my minute and a half elevator speech, if you will, to kind of summarize what it is we do to get people, to understand it so they go, hey, why don't we do that? So you lead it and I will follow from there and happy to.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great, Tom. Thanks. Yeah, basically, I mean, I use it with just about everybody I have because we always talk about the whole integrated structure of the body, tensegrity model. And we always talk about, hey, this whole side of your body and this whole side of your body, how they're connected. And Thomas Myers would say, and he's of anatomy trains. If you don't know anatomy trains, really helpful to get an idea of the structural integrity of how everything connects. And for me, I guess for me being an engineer in my background, I did some engineering school before I became a PT. And I know
I
you,
did math. I was a math teacher
yeah, you're
before.
math. So you've got these linear
Yeah.
minds, but like, we think about free body diagrams, how forces get leveraged, and it made a lot of sense that, I remember one person I had up in Longview, she had a neck pain and we're doing leg raises on her, right? And couldn't extend, everything hurt. And then we tried a few of the twists, kind of helped, not really. Leg lifts. She
Mm-hmm.
did a bunch
Big
of
feedback thing. That's what I
lot
say.
of leg lifts, and all of a sudden she goes, "What just happened?" It was like, it was really pretty amazing. And then I'd always have a high low table in the corner because I was like a little afraid to show people what I was actually doing, doing high low table so I could have them do the sit to stands and all those
Yep.
things. But these series of exercises, which it was really interesting how you learned this process and how you came about developing this thing. I tell people, we looked at these exercises on this old form, the basic Fab Five movements were not made by accident, right? They were designed for a purpose to look at how whole body, like an arm raise, for example, isn't just, your shoulder. And I tell people, you're not just a Lego guy, you're this whole thing moves. And I really love showing that with a shoulder patient. If this shoulder hurts. So I'm like, well, you definitely need to improve. Most people will say you definitely need to improve your thoracic extension and posture. So I'm like, well, one of the best things to do is the opposite side movement because you get these shoulders that go back. You're not pinching here. You're getting this nice extension, and at least gives people an in to get started on it. And then we can start working on the rest of the body. But that's where I kind of start with it and just get people a sense of what it's all about. And that's been great.
When we now call that the one-step quick fix. So if you look for emotion on one side of the body that bugs you and it doesn't bug you on the other side, you just go and do that. So if you want, let me give a quick synopsis because This is going out to who? Do you have a blog or a podcast? Is that
Yeah,
what
I
you have?
just have some people who follow, and I'll probably kind of share this with different channels I might have on our YouTube channel and that kind of thing. So yeah.
So let me narrow you guys into what culturally and professionally we are programmed to do, right? Until you take like a total motion release and go, wait, why haven't we done this before? So really quick here, just because you can see my shoulder, right? If somebody came in with right shoulder pain, if 100 people came in to clinicians with right shoulder pain, 100 of those patients are going to want and expect you to move this shoulder to fix it. So we're culturally programmed that way, right? So they go and they move this shoulder on their own and try to fix it. And maybe it does, or maybe it doesn't. And if it doesn't, they go to a clinician. All right. Then the clinician has been programmed that they can use the shoulder, the arm, the neck, the ribs, and the thoracic on this side. Right. And so we're fractionalized medicine when it comes to movement therapy or even mobility therapy, anything that we're doing from a clinical standpoint. So where we came in and say, okay, great. If it works, it worked. However, whatever happened to, what if something is from over here is pulling? Shouldn't we be coming over here and looking at this quadrant? So what I'm going to show you is this is a quadrant and we call it a region. Well, we have 4 regions of the body. We also have the left shoulder, arm, ribs, thoracic, neck on this side. That's a second region, right? Now, you then have a lower right region of maybe low back, pelvis, right leg. Left side, low back, pelvis, leg. That puts us into 4 quadrants. If something's pulling from down here or pulling diagonally over here, doesn't it make sense that it might have more an effect on this than anything in this region? Or you've already gotten whatever you're going to get cleaned up here, or maybe it was never down there, up there anyways, and you never came anywhere else to fix it. So those of you who have chronic pain, the reason may be is people keep treating one region of the body only for you. And it looks normal because that's what we think that should be done. So we think we've had everything done. And the truth of it is, even within a process and of techniques, I don't care whether you've seen a therapist or several therapists that do multiple techniques, they're still doing those multiple techniques still in one region of the body. And I'll add a little bit more to it, is that when they treat into the problem area, all right, they probably find the direction of motion they can't go into. And they keep trying to go into it, maybe less, maybe if they do joint mobs on you, they find that the anterior to posterior is front to back is the most restricted. So they initially just go into what's most restricted. And they rarely go into what feels the best. So the big thing is we use all quadrants, but we also predominantly use going into finding what works well, using it to fix what doesn't work well. And just like Meyer's picture back there, there's 9 tissues of the body. Only 2 of them, veins and lymphatics, like to lengthen or go into restriction to free up. Maybe it's because of the way the valves are different or something. All the rest of the tissues of the body, right? Now I'm going from hard tissue, which is bone, all the way down to visceral vessels and muscles and everything else. And there's a degree, some are softer, some are harder, and there's everything in between. 7 tissues like to shorten to release. So why has our professions gotten locked into this idea that we keep going into what doesn't work, finding motions that don't work, and try to fix what doesn't work by going in using motions that don't work? Got it? So when you put it that way and you hear this, you may go, what the heck's he talking about? But when I say, hey, it's most restricted in this joint going that direction, you'll see people go in that direction, heading that direction. The arm doesn't move like this, they're doing that. Hey, my hamstring is tight, so they stretch the hamstring. Which is okay if it's going to work, because it could be one of those 2 tissues that need releasing. And that's when it works. I don't know what the heck. This doesn't.
Happy
It does this.
party.
I
Happy
know it does
birthday.
all the time. And so when you see that, you're like, wait, okay. Now you don't have to take my word for it. Everything that I lay out is in a system that you can test on yourself. All right. So if you can't lift your arm up like this, very quickly, you could come over and just test the other side. Now, you can stop me anytime you want in this because
Sure.
these are the most questions I get from most people that I can summarize in very
Yeah.
quickly. Um, but we use opposites. We use the opposite of restriction, which is ease. So we use the opposite of things that don't move well. We use what does move well anywhere in the body to fix it. We are not exclusive. We don't negate the two that like to lengthen. We'll go and find those when we need to, all right, if things aren't working. But the truth of the matter is there's four opposites. So the opposite, and I'm going to get a little mathematical. You're an engineer, so you'll be good
Okay.
with
Here
it
we
too.
go. Yeah, that's good.
If you have a y-axis, all
Hmm.
right, we are live in a three-dimensional universe. So we got a y-axis, an x-axis, and two z-axes, but I'm not going to talk about those quite yet. So the y-axis splits us between left and right. Okay. Let's say I cut you at the belly button horizontally, that cuts us top to bottom. Now the diagonal ones do two things. They give us a diagonal opposite, which means the opposite of the right shoulder is the left hip, for example. And what it really just means is, hey, I could have something pulling from this diagonal, preventing this shoulder from coming up. The other one is, hey, I could have it pulling from the other, the other shoulder to do
Right.
it. Okay. And you could have it coming from top to bottom. I got my things wrong here. All right. So when you know that you have those four opposites, maybe that was three,
Top,
left to
bottom,
right,
left, right. Yeah.
top to bottom,
Diagonal.
diagonal,
Yeah.
and some would say front to back,
Mhm.
right? And you could even say compression, decompression, which is really lengthening and shortening. But the three main ones that we use are left to right, top to bottom, and diagonal, which
Yeah.
now gets people to go, well, you get this new technique and you go, how do I go about using this? And you think it's complex. And I tell people, I share so much in almost the basics of everything of the whole process that you could take, like you say, well, man, I'm just a do-it-yourself, or I'll just go play around with it. And some of you are going to say, well, I want guidance because you guys are going to run into, again, if you're a patient, you're used to wherever it hurts, you expect to be moved.
Yep.
So your mindset is kind of messed up. Clinicians, your mindset's messed up even more because you've been programmed to fractionalize movement. Okay. Now, some of you say, no, 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 I treat the whole body and stuff like that. I said, most of the time when they say that, yeah, they're treating both sides, but one side's the waste. They treat that it's not necessary. So you're actually being less efficient.
Right. Got it. So that's great, Tom. I think that's a good summary of like how we move in axes and how the whole body's interconnected. One thing you probably hear a lot is, okay, well, my shoulder, my rotor cup is not moving well. I got this
It's all drawn up.
right, something's in there, right? So, how are we going to affect that, and will that change much with what I do? And I think sometimes we're like, I want to move this, I want to try this. And we're not saying we're not going there, right? Like you always do, we do the test, retest. And that's what's great about what I show people. You have the 7 steps. I'll tell people, I keep it real simple for you. It's 3 steps. I say you check both sides, you do the yummy side or the easy side, and then you're going to generally just recheck that and see if it's either one of 3 things, better, worse, or the same. And if you can keep it that simple for the beginning, and I take, hey, take me on faith on this a little bit. I say, hey, this is a bit counterintuitive. I totally understand, but it really does come down to you got to see how that restriction or whatever you're having limited responds to that. And based on that, you make your decisions on what you're going to do next. And that's really helped me a lot. So I always feel confident no matter what happens when they retest. I'm like, okay, well, it either didn't work. Edison said, I found 10,000 ways to not invent the light bulb. I find different ways. We know we have a process that guides you through, which is what's really valuable. What your math mind has really helped with that.
One of the things you brought up is people, when they take the course, they say, how do I bring back and share with the patient that I'm about, and this is what Trent just brought up. My patient comes in with a neck pain and I'm going to do legs on them. Right now, that's taken us years to get to the way that I'm going to share with you. And I will tell you, initially, that's the biggest obstacle because you shy away from it a little bit. I did too early on. How am I going to get that talent? And it's kind of simple as we say to them, and I say to clinicians and general public now is, how many of you believe the whole body's connected? And everybody raises their hand. And I say, okay, so here's your pain, right? How many of you have been treated in this area? And they'll raise their hand. And I say, okay, cool. I said, have you ever been treated over here to try to fix that? And they go, no. But the whole body's connected, right? Wouldn't that shoulder pull? And then I say, you ever been treated down lower to fix that? Uh-uh. Now the whole body's connected, right? You ever been treated down here because a pull could be happening from here down in the hip. In preventing motion down there is preventing it from working up here. So for example, there's a physics law. Again, you may not be an engineer or math person, but the longer the lever, the more force it generates.
Yes.
So a tension down here in the body, all right, because of the long lever arm that is now leading up to your shoulder is going to create more problems than anything that would have been created here. All right, because it can create more force. It's just a lever arm theory. All right,
Yeah,
all
it's
right.
just leverage. Yeah, it's just leverage. Like you got a long, I tell people it's like a longer crowbar. If you have some sort of
Yeah,
restriction
exactly,
in your
exactly.
ankle,
You can move
how
the world.
you
Yes, you can
can,
move the
yeah,
world.
right. Archimedes said, give me a lever
Yes.
long enough, I can move the world, and that's the
And
thing.
so,
It's like, yeah, looking at those connections.
and I'll
Yeah.
give one more if clinicians are watching and patients too, in the sense of, hey, look, and because your people are going to be patients watching, right?
Yeah,
Mainly,
mostly
no
patients
public.
who, yeah, are
Okay.
just interested in health and
So,
how to move
and,
their
and
body.
you,
Yeah.
you guys have to understand there's we've trained over 15,000 people and stuff, but people that are at Trent's caliber, right, are far and few between, right? Because they'll well, anyways, we'll get to that in a second. But I want to say is that so if Trent talked about testing and retesting. If I come over and you can't lift this shoulder up, right? And you do two sets, don't quite go to pain, you do two sets, you should be able to then see after you rest for a second or 30 seconds, a minute, retest to see if with what you did just helped. And that's what we mean when we say test and retest. Didn't. Well, let's say so you got no improvement, maybe a little one. And I say, all right, what if we go over here and we do something over here, maybe just the exact opposite, and you get this much improvement. Remember, the whole body's connected, right? We all agreed to that. Now, what if I go down to the same side of the leg and I do something, I get this much improvement? Or what if I go to the other side, the lower leg on the left, and I get this much improvement? Which one do you want me to do on you?
Right.
So we're looking when we test and retest, and you see Trent do that on you, we're looking for you to see that it's working or not working, because we've also been misled to believe that it takes 2 weeks to fix things, 3 weeks to fix things, or not fix things, to show a change, right? It's this time. And matter of fact, that's inaccurate. You should be doing things that keep showing improvements. Doesn't mean it goes from broken to fixed,
Mhm.
but it means, oh, better, 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 while you're in session doing it, while you're at home doing it on yourself. Because why waste the time doing something that either does nothing or makes you worse, right? You got three choices or three things that may happen. It's going to make you worse. It's going to do nothing, or it's going to help. Which one do you want to do for the next 2 weeks or something? So always keep finding the things that help. Then, right then and there,
Right. Yeah, it keeps
we
you
don't.
that motivation factor too. A lot of folks get into that drab thing of assigned exercises, it becomes this obligation to do. And I just have to do it kind of in that good faith that eventually this thing's gonna turn
Yeah,
around
right,
and
exactly.
then, people
That
come back
sucks.
waiting for,
Totally
yeah, it's
sucks.
just really hard to not do this. When you see
Yeah.
a nice shift that happens sooner, it's really more encouraging and you can really opens up. That's what's really cool about this. And I kind of want to talk about this a little bit is how just like how these have parallels to like focusing on good things, it's like a good life paradigm thought process that I
You
just
want me
love.
to give my story on this? You want me to
Sure,
give
yeah, I just love it.
So when you're in school and you get this paper back and everything's circled in red, tell me, what is it that's circled in red?
What's wrong, right? What you did wrong,
Everything
right?
you
Everything's
did
bad,
wrong.
right? The bad stuff, right?
Right? What if, and why? Why did we choose that? What if when we got a paperback, everything circled in red was everything we did well or what the teacher might want to make know more of? And that is what we did, is we began looking for everything we did right through life rather than what we did wrong through life. Now, I can give a prime example of this. I had a creative English teacher in college that was wild. He made us write one paragraph first day of school. And all he did afterwards is he just said, that's really interesting. Can you tell me more? He goes, oh, I love that idea. Share some more of it, or whatever. So he never once picked on a single thing of you got to do this. And by the end of the semester, we'd written our own story or something like that, like 25 pages of stuff. And so he made me never feel like I was doing something wrong. And so many times in healthcare, or in a lot of things we do when we begin things, if you know, we're just trying to find what works or what improves it today. And sometimes you're going to get lucky and it's going to be this much improvement. Sometimes you're going to be big old improvement. And when you first start this,
Yeah.
because your body has been asking to treat other regions of the body and you've never have, you are going to significantly see changes. And then as you peel away more and more of the onion, the improvements may be less, but you've already had this giant change to begin with. And don't feel bad if you go, but it's not giant changing on me yet. Sometimes think of like cords or hoses all wound up, 3 or 4 of them together and stuff. Sometimes we think, oh, we've got it, and it does change it for a bit, but if somebody pulls on the other end, it tightens the stuff back up. Trying to get the big loop flipped over first so we can get to the other loops eventually too. So we don't know. I was a math teacher, right? We don't know whether you have an adding and subtracting problem or way up there in calculus that we have to work gradually through to build up to find it and keep on uncovering it.
Right.
And I want to share one more thing because I want to keep this as simple as possible to people. All we do, and what you'll see Trent do, is we break the body. I know I talked about 4 regions, but that can be complex, right? Trent and I might think that's pretty enjoyable, right? Because we're math and engineer people, but people mainly don't. And what we basically say is we take upper, middle, lower. So arms, trunk, which comes along with the spine and the neck, and legs. And we find a couple motions, and we have since found like what we call the power or the core ones. But we take a couple motions upper, a couple motions in middle, a couple motions in lower. We test for what doesn't work well and what works really well. And we track the things that don't work well, and we treat and we move the things that do. And we test and retest after each one. And you may go, well, that's just too simple. Well, as I said, as you go to do it, you're going to run into a lot of past beliefs. Some of you just do it and you're like, damn, you look at some of Trent's videos, you look at some of my videos, and you'd be like, I can try that. And it may work for you. And it may work for you for a day or two. It may work for you forever. If you've had your issue for 3 weeks, maybe it'll last forever. If you had it for 3 years, maybe it's going to last a certain bit until you turn one way and boom, and you've actually tied up those hoses again, and you need other stuff to get to deep.
Yeah, like my runners, or they go run and they go mess themselves back up, right? So in life kind of throws that thing back in balance. And I use the analogy, I don't know if you use it, like idea of your body's out of balance, and I'll just say, well, we could load both sides of the scale, but how well is that going to work? And then, well, we're going to load one side of the scale, but if I only load one side of the scale, am I only loading a couple pebbles here, or do I need to put a couple rocks to make it actually
Oh, I
shift?
like that. That's great.
Right. So then I can get it balanced once we get here. Because, for my runners, I need to build capacity and load to get them stronger because they need to build up and be there. But there might be things that kind of keep throwing you off again. That's why you got to be reinforcing this. But like you said, these big chunks happen, all of a sudden you might get it here, but now we're kind of trying to find a new normal. And that's kind of the way I think about it. And the more I can get people to kind of get that concept that life will throw you back out, it doesn't mean that's totally fine, because once you have a tool set, don't you know what to do? It's really fascinating. People can
let's address that, throw you back out, because it's such a generic term that
yeah,
is used.
sure.
And so what is meant by that? You're going to see that there are simple movements you do through life And there's progressive motions that are like, what I mean by that is one dimensional, where I just raise my arm up, right? But what happens if in this joint, it's when it's rotated? Well, I've got to have another motion for when it's rotated to test things. And what if it's rotated and twisted? I need a motion to test that too. Luckily, there's a systematic and methodical way to test the body using only 6 core motions. And those 6 core motions are the basis of the first degree, if you will, or simple motions. And then they can go into 4 directions to make it more complex. And then each joint of those motions then can go into 3 directions. I'm not trying to overwhelm you on that. But if you think that 6 motions, 4 directions, 3 progressions, 3 joint positions, you understand that, and you have the skill set that Trent will give you to help yourself with all your running injuries, if you will, right? And then you haven't done it on 100 or 1,000 patients like Trent has. So when you go, I'm not quite getting it, then you'll be coming back, right? But it'll take less time for him to help you. So all of a sudden you're saving time. So, and nobody has gotten to this level of simplicity so that, Trent learned from me because he went through the exact same steps that he shares with you. You'll get so good at those steps that you can then have a brother or sister, mom, coworker. Oh, my shoulder's really hurting me. And you'll show them. And so it's one of the few, and it doesn't matter what condition they have, right? You won't just use this for maybe knee pain that you have right now. You might get plantar fascia in a year. Maybe you'll get, low back pain after that. And that's our biggest job, Trent's and mine, is trying to educate you to become mini us.
Totally. Yeah, I say that all the time. Then they have the doctorate of physical therapy now degree, and doctor,
Exactly.
that root word is docere, which is to teach, and we need to learn that. That's what doctors are supposed to be, teachers. We need to be, I take that responsibility very seriously, and want to make sure that people do leave with more than just, some people just, hey man, just
Just
treat
tell me
me,
what to do,
right?
right?
Just tell me what to do, and that's totally fine.
Yep.
But it's really great when people really embody that whole thing, and they totally get it. And now I've given them something. That's the whole thing. When people are coming in here, they're paying their good hard money. I want to make
Yep.
sure that they get something out of it with like, wow, this can work for me anytime. Yeah, it can. It just, as long as you remember when Trent said, try that opposite side. Yeah, go ahead and go for it. Once you understand the process, you own it for lifetime. So it's quite a
Yeah.
gift.
One thing for y'all to know is there's, Trent said he'd start you off with 3 simple steps, and there's truly 7 steps. And when you know that for anything, and you can have one sheet of paper that tells you what to do with them, you can always fall back to it. So I don't know. I'm the kind of person that I like to have help, but just like you said, what doctorate means. And Mackenzie, which many of you guys may know or may not know, but he's a famous clinician, and he used to say our job should be to give our skill set to our patients. And you're going to see people like myself and Trent that we're very desiring to help you have that skill, so that, and people say, but if my toilet's running over, I don't want to, or I'm just going to call the plumber. I go, yeah, unless your toilet's running over 3 times a day. And then you might want to have him tell you what he's doing to stop it from running over. And most of you guys have chronic pain.
Right.
Okay. So
Yeah.
if, like I said, if you have low, you did something 2 weeks ago and it's the first time that's ever hurt,
Yeah.
hey, chances are to, a couple visits, maybe a couple shot, maybe get rid of it. All right. And
Totally.
keep it away. But
Yeah, and it's like how you said, I remember how you said something about how you puff up your chest about how your manual therapy skills are so great, and how people seek out those really specialized things, and they definitely have their value and purpose for sure. But I love that thought of like when when you were posed a question
I'll,
that was
I'll share it. Okay. I'll share it. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. All right. Or that a patient asked me. And he said, Tom, how good are you at fixing your patients? And he knew a lot about me. He knew as a teacher. He knew I loved teaching. He knew all that stuff. And there was a time in my career that I was like, my my patients aren't leaving with what I really want them to leave with, right? Which was a skill set. I taught math when my kids finished algebra. they left with the ability to do algebra, or at least, multiplying and dividing or something. And so he said, Tom, how good are you at fixing your patients? And I'd already at that time taken like 40 courses. I puffed my chest. I said, top 10%. He goes, awesome. He goes, how good are your patients at fixing themselves? And I said, big fat bagel 0.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference here. So some of you, and we always ask our patients, if you have pain right now and we relieve it, Trent does or I do, right? But it comes back in 2 hours. Do you want to come back in for another hour session, another X amount of money? Because it might come back another 2 hours later or 3 hours later. Are you going to come in 2, 3 times today and spend that money? And then tomorrow too? Or would you like to know, and it's simple, me to show you it so you can do it on yourself? We've only had 2 people in my 24 years that have said, nope, I just want you to do it and ignore it. So what it took, when we started asking those 2 questions, it took us out of our own mind, because Chip and I, who's one of my lead therapists at the time, we recognized that we had something in our head. Said, yeah, but people really want to have us treating them and doing it for them. And my patients don't want to have to do the work. And you may come into the office and think the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're presented with those 2 questions and you've had chronic pain for a while, you recognize that I'm going to give a scale. So this is chronic pain. As long as you're balanced, you're neither getting better or worse. As soon as it drops a little bit, now you're in chronic pain, and now you're in pain, and now you're not healing. You're actually getting made worse. So you're now in a state of chronic pain. This is going to make it worse. This is going to make it worse. Now, if I can just get you to here, you're going to be a state of chronic healing. If I can get you a bigger one, you're going to have it faster, right? And so even chronic, what does that mean? You got a little bit of pain that just kind of is always there, or you got a lot that's going on. It's really, and it's been there a long time, perhaps, right? So there's those avenues that happen. And so that's what we're trying to do, is that if you have a 24 hours in a day and you hurt 12 of them or 13 of them, whoa, right? That sucks. So if you get better when myself or Trent treats you and it comes back in 2 hours, you need to get it back at least to neutral, so you're not making yourself worse, right? The longer you stay in that worseness, the more chronic pain you become.
Yeah, absolutely. And pain is that signal, right? It's giving you it's a wonderful signal, actually. You think about it, it's like it's telling you, it's trying to direct you. If the body can't talk, in English, so it goes in O's and Uhs and all these gross, these things. But the more we can kind of direct you as a cue, and then I love when you talked about, I think it was you talked about like the life skills and like zero, I tell people red, yellow, green all the time. Like that concept of once you get, it just really increases your whole body's awareness. That's the thing with it. Like,
Let me
right? Like
share, let me share with them so to
yeah,
catch
for
it.
sure.
You've got it in your head. They don't yet.
Yeah.
So what he's talking about, we're going to give you these motions to do, right? Trent's going to give you motions, and it's a system, and it's methodical, and it makes it so you can pass it to another person. But life can be just positions, all right? And it can be movements, total, functional movements. It has to do with a lot of body parts all at once. Like, for example, if I asked you to get down on your knees and get back up, and most of you put one leg forward and then get up and maybe push off of something. And then if I told you, all right, whatever knee you got up on, now do the other leg, and you'll notice there's big differences. So your body, when it's told to do something or is doing something, it naturally goes to the better motion to do it. However, sometimes you get, I don't know, against a wall, or a person is standing there and you can't do it to your good side. So you do it to your bad. It's like, all I did is pick my keys up and I threw my back out.
Right.
You actually didn't. You picked your keys up to the bad side that couldn't tolerate that, because there was something in the environment that didn't allow you to go do it the other way. Right. So there are things that, like, for example, right here, if you're just able to hear, if you've got an armrest or you don't even have to, and you shifted from one side to the other, I like this one better. So if I'm on a couch and I don't have the opportunity because my wife's over on the right side, and that's the one I like to have my armrest on, I'm over here in the left hanging out like this. I'm making myself chronically in pain. And these environmental things and positions can be the things that are causing and keeping more pain than the motions that you're taught yourself. So you have to have then an introduction to what am I doing in life that may be causing this?
Right. Totally right.
And
Yeah.
most of the time, we say in life is those functions, those activities of daily living that you naturally do, but you're doing them if nobody tells you and you say pick that up or squat and pick that up and you don't think, well, when I squat I have to have my back straight and everything else perfect. If you
Right.
just do it the way your body wants, it'll be doing it usually the best way.
Totally. Yeah, and that's great. I think that's the thing that I see people with, well, especially when we do things through like calling compensation. So how we say, hey, compensate, that's a bad thing. And we're trying to keep straight and everything, like you were just saying, how actually a lot of times that limits how your body's really trying to flow. It's trying to move a certain way. You know, there are some like biomechanical averages. I think there's something where, you know, you don't want to be too cattywampus, and but
Here,
there
let
is
me let
something
me
about
let,
how your body heals. So
let me tell about that because you have been in this for 16 years and you just used the word compensation that professionally and culturally means something bad, like you
right.
said.
Sure.
So let me catch them to it. So you'll oftentimes have a pain and you're all of a sudden leaning over, right? And they say, you're compensating, but your body's doing it. So what if we did more of it? Right? Would that help us get realigned? Because we're not taught that way. Hey, you're crooked. Oh, and you're crooked, you need to get it so you're straight. In order to heal you, let's just say so you can see me, I'm crooked like this. Well, people want you to get straight in order to help you get straight. So I can't go straight. It hurts to go straight, but hey, get straight. In other words, go into what's broken to unbreak what's broken, right? And the body's doing it, and it's got much more innate ability to heal than our brain probably, right? And so I say the brain's doing it. What if we did more of it? Because this would be called you're compensating, stop compensating. And I look at it and say, forget the word compensating. What does that mean? Hey, I'm not in my normal looking position. I could do one of two things: go back to my normal and see whether that helps me, or go into what my body's doing, which we label professionally and culturally as the term compensating. And because we label compensating as a bad thing, we never look at going into
Right.
the direction the body is trying to get you into. And the body is intelligent as hell, and it's saying to you, I need to do more of these, and that will straighten you out.
Yeah. No,
Because we think this is what's broken. No, what's broken is trying to come back here is what's broken.
yeah. I've gone through many trainings on you know, non-conscious or unconscious subconscious mind, you know, how infinitely more powerful that is. And you know, they say it's like on the level of like 10 billion to 1 or something. But our conscious is awareness, and we're trying to solve it with that. And how our body is kind of this manifestation of what it innately, you just start to trust this as you know the process more. But I found it been really helpful for people to understand that there's cues that we're trying to tune into, and that gives us some more signals of what to do. And I found a lot of people who really have more sense of intuition to it do really well. Some people need to work their way up to it, but I found
Okay.
it to be really
So
helpful.
you mentioned intuition. And again, we have vocabulary that we all put what that meaning is in that word. So if a word has like a chest that we can put things in, we have a word that intuition, like, oh, how intuitive is this person? How intuitive is that person? And I'm going to break it down even to a more simple thing. It's your ability to observe, right? Because somebody put into compensation, the word compensation, people don't even pay attention to the, yes, I'm leaning over. That's a problem. Well, what if that's a solution?
Right.
Right. So all I want to do is I don't want to put a word to it. I want to go, hey, he is bent over to the right. Right. So normal is this. If I just wanted to start with this idea of a one-step quick fix, this is normal, but this, do I want to try to keep him going into here? I could do 2 sets into the thing he doesn't like, recheck to see whether now he likes being here more. Or I could go 2 sets into leaning further, which he probably likes, see what happens. That will give me an indicator of which one's more better for me to do.
For sure.
And you then intuitively become better at observing without words stuck in your head, would it actually stop a neutral opinion or a neutral observation? It is the words that we've learned and what we put in those words
Right.
that stops us from understanding. So when I say to clinicians, you could take, I pretty much gave everybody, we got 3 areas of the body, take a couple in the top, help with this. And I gave the instructions right here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this observation skill set. It's this idea that you have been programmed with certain words. Hey, but you're compensating. Don't you have to fix that compensation? Or people say, but it's a weakness. You can't fix a weakness right away. And gang, what does a weakness observe like? So if somebody can't do, like, say, a leg extension on one side, but they can on the other, like, so they can't do it on here. Let's just say, I can't lift my arm up here, but this one I can.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And it's a weakness that we talk more about weaknesses in legs for the most part.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, a weakness, we are programmed to believe that takes X number of weeks before you're going to start to see changes. Right? If it's a weakness, then if I go to the other side or go to another part of the body, then it should not change. But when I go and let's say I treat to the good side and it instantly now I can lift that up, it was never a weakness. And I've almost never seen weaknesses now that I observe rather what the body says, rather than, hey, I'm going to label this thing that they can't do. The label is what's hurting us to a degree. Why can't we just say, that's moving well, that's not moving well? See how the simplicity becomes moving well, not moving well, moving well, moving well. Oh, believe the whole body's connected. Now, just for simplicity's sake, let's break it into 3 parts: upper, middle, lower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
And gang, I want you guys to the degree in which Trent thinks like this is so many light years ahead of another clinician you might go to, because they're still stuck in the idea, hey, yes, the body heals itself. They know that the body's all connected, but they have never been trained in other things except for one thing. Beautifully trained in that too. I'm not taking away from it. All right. And as this gets more and more out there over the overnight success of 50 years, not 15 minutes of fame, because that's how long it takes to change the thought process, is that you will begin seeing that we really do understand that we can take any part of the body, finding good things, and change any other part of the body that's not working well. So many times people will say, well, Tom, give me your best movements for blah, 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 blah. Give me your best movement to fix a shoulder pain. Because everybody thinks there's one answer.
Mm-hmm.
What's the secret? The wonderful, beautiful thing about this is there's many. So what fixes you this time might be different. Or when you go to fix yourself, you might use the arm raise and it drops you tremendously, right? Yeah. Well, maybe the next day it comes back and you do a leg raise and it drops it tremendously. And you're like, wow, I got 2 ways to do it in solutions.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that, but too long of an explanation on this.
No, that's great. I think that's a good summary of everything. I think it's really, really helpful for people to kind of understand where this angle comes from. I mentioned intuition there. I was like saying, actually, I'll preface it by saying it's often counterintuitive in what people kind of want, because it's the conditioning, like you just said. It's just once you do it again, like once you get a couple successes, that's what I always try to get that first visit. If I could get people to feel it and they go, oh dang, like what's that all about? I've seen locked up thoracic spines. It's like what just happened? And they're just blown away. I got that person sold. They know that they're going to keep getting, they know that whatever they did, they never knew that before. And that's what I'm trying to set up with is somebody the first time. And then once that happens, they know that this guy's onto something whole different thing. And it's so exciting when that happens.
Those of you watching this, 80% of the time, Trent and myself are going to be able to get a change on that first visit. Okay. Yes, it sucks when you come in and we're trying to fix your jaw pain, your neck pain with a leg, and it's not working. And we look really weird because we're doing something so different than what the normal is. But that's why, throw this video to them when they go home, because there are times that you don't have a first degree issue, a simple movement issue. You have a multiple issue, like multiple motion thing, or a 3-dimensional motion problem. And finding it isn't like Trent can go, well, here's the secret to it. And I can just look at it and there it is. No, we still have to step through. It's like at the pilots, they have a checklist. We have a checklist of motions to put you through methodically in order to make us be able to find it and see it so that you also have that same skill set. Because when we teach you the rules of how to find, you'll go out on your own when you're not in session and find things.
Yeah.
You'll come out, oh, you know what, Tom, what really bugged me the most was when I was stepping up the stairs sideways. I don't know why they were, but hey, they were doing something. Okay, great. Did you go over and do the other side? Yeah. Or did you do a twist? Yeah. So your help by understanding how to create motion or find motions will help us help you more too, but we have to help you understand that.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, if anybody's watching this, take a look at some of Tom's videos on total motion release. I mean, it's amazing, like totally cool. You have a decent, I've seen your Instagram posts and also some other things as well. Anything else, anywhere else that they can go to take a look at them? I just find those videos, like the ones you've done, a certain
But
thing,
I mean,
weird eye things, jaw things, things that show up, the Muay Thai guy who couldn't kick,
yeah.
and the other side.
So
Pretty cool.
go to totalmotionrelease.com. Gang, I teach to clinicians, all right, so that they can help take the message out to the world. All right. But you'll see on there that I developed this for my patients first. My patients used to go through with DVDs and click them into the computer and do the exact same steps that now is all online, you know? So I was pre-internet, already doing kind of getting ready for internet. I didn't know it. So my patients didn't come to me and I was doing everything on them and stuff. After a while, I was like, I'm getting sick of repeating the exact same thing because there's no different of what I say to every single person. So why do I have to say it? Why don't I just record myself and do it? Well, that's the awesome system, okay, as far as training, which then he can repeat to you over and over and over again. He can do it right now, right? And there's other things that you and I will talk about as far as that goes. But on top of that, is it on the website are, what is it, 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 videos of us treating. You can click another button and get to another 50 of us treating patients. And we don't just show you the before and the after, we show you what we're doing during it. So when you get to that point, you go, oh, I can just do that. And you'll think, oh, that's simple as all hell. No, it is. That's the beauty of it. But you need like a consultant. It's like, hey, it's easy to open up a business.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I find that to be the case with myself as I've just kind of learned through things like, you think, oh, generally I could do that. Then I'm coming back to the lessons and going, oh, I skipped that step because, you just kind of, I kind of like to go on the fly and sometimes I got to bring myself back. You can get yourself lost on what you're doing unless you are very systematic. That's what's great about this. This isn't just like, like you've said before, don't trust me on what I say. Just you got to see what the action, what when you retest and how it goes. So
You guys remember it's like when you drove a car the first time. You just don't know how to do it, right? And somebody's got to be alongside you and they have to give you tips and you get through school. The same thing with learning how to use the body. But once you got it, you got it, right? You can drive forever and you can use the process of the body, which the body's using to try to heal you all the time. And you'll learn there's things you're doing because you've been taught to sit up properly. Don't bend or don't put your knees over your toes. When you lift something up, make sure you're equally weighted. Some of you who lift something up equally weighted will throw the heck out of your back. Some of you like it. Some of you need one foot in front of the other. Some of you need the other foot in front of the other. You will never know that unless you're going through with somebody because it might work for you. But when Trent goes, the next time you do that, you might throw your back out because you need to test yourself first, of which the best one, at least when you're in the healing mode, once it's healed up, it's fine. Good.
yeah, awesome, Tom. Thanks for the conversation. It's been excellent. I really appreciate you sharing. I think it's going to help a lot of people who will see this that will kind of understand kind of that rationale a little bit. A lot of people need that, a little bit of understanding. It really helps them cement a little bit of a different paradigm in terms of what we're providing. It's a whole different mindset, but it's been phenomenal to have this journey with you the last 16 years, learning all this. It's crazy. But
Hey, I'm going to say one thing because you do with runners. One of the biggest things we get with runners, I know you'll say this too, is that you'll say, but my pain doesn't come on until 20 minutes of running.
Yeah.
And we got you on that too. Okay. It's not going to go into it. So if you think, oh, well, this won't help because there are no things ever help because it comes on in 20 minutes and somebody doesn't go out and run with me at 20 minutes. Oh, that's it. Now that's a pretty easy one to solve. So if you are that type of runner, there you go.
Definitely. Well, thanks, Tom. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
See
Thanks.
you, buddy.
All
Appreciate it.
righty.